When your children don't respect you and ignore you, stay calm and do this for effective results. Do you ever feel like your children no longer see you the way they once did? Like your presence in their lives is no longer valued or acknowledged? It's a painful reality for many parents, especially as they grow older. The sharp sting of being ignored or disrespected by the very people you raised can cut deeper than words. It leaves you questioning your role in their lives and sometimes even your own worth. But take heart. You're not alone in this journey, and there are effective ways to turn the tide. In this video, we're diving into transformative strategies designed specifically for parents like you. These approaches don't just offer a quick fix, but guide you toward meaningful, lasting change in your relationship with your children. You'll discover how to address disrespect calmly, rebuild trust, and cultivate a connection rooted in mutual respect and understanding. This is not about demanding obedience or instilling fear. It's about teaching love and boundaries in a way that works for today's complex family dynamics. If you're ready to regain your sense of peace and rebuild those precious relationships, stay with us. And before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more insights that can transform your family dynamics. Let's get started. Imagine this. Your son rolls his eyes when you ask him a question, or your daughter brushes past you with a dismissive tone, making you feel invisible in your own home. The hurt is undeniable, and the frustration bubbles up inside you, begging for release. It feels personal, like a rejection of all the love, sacrifice, and wisdom you've poured into their lives. In these moments, it's tempting to snap back, to demand the respect you deserve. Yet, as satisfying as it might feel in the moment, meeting fire with fire often leaves everyone burned. Emotional control is not about suppressing what you feel or pretending everything is fine. It's about choosing to respond in a way that protects the relationship rather than damages it. When faced with disrespect, staying calm is an act of strength, not weakness. It's the decision to prioritize long-term harmony over short-term satisfaction. This kind of calm doesn't come easily, but its rewards are profound. By choosing to pause, breathe, and reflect before reacting, you shift the entire dynamic of the interaction. Suddenly, instead of escalating tension, you're defusing it, creating space for understanding and connection. Consider the story of Robert, a father in his 60s, whose adult son often dismissed his opinions with sarcastic remarks. During one family dinner, Robert felt his patience tested when his son rolled his eyes at a heartfelt piece of advice. Robert's initial reaction was anger. He wanted to demand respect, to insist that his years of experience earned him a seat at the table of their conversation. But instead of raising his voice, he took a deep breath. "I see this isn't the right moment," he said calmly, pushing his chair back. Later, in private, he approached his son and said, "I care about what you think, and it hurts when you dismiss me. Can we talk about this?" That simple act of control, choosing a calm, private discussion over a heated public argument, transformed their relationship. Over time, Robert's son began to mirror that composure, showing more respect and thoughtfulness in their conversations. The power of emotional control lies not just in preventing conflicts, but in demonstrating a deeper kind of resilience. Children, regardless of their age, notice how their parents react in moments of tension. If you respond with anger, they internalize that as the norm. But if you meet their behavior with calm composure, they begin to see another way, a way that reflects maturity, wisdom, and emotional stability. Maintaining calm in the face of disrespect also communicates a powerful message, that your self-worth is not dictated by their actions. It says, I am steady even when the waters around me are not. This unwavering presence encourages children to reflect on their own behavior. They begin to see that their actions haven't unraveled you, and this often inspires them to engage in self-reflection, sometimes for the first time. Of course, this is easier said than done. Emotional control requires practice and intentionality, especially when the hurt runs deep. It might help to think of it as a skill, one that improves with time and effort. When emotions surge, taking a moment to pause can be transformative. Close your eyes if you need to, take a deep breath, and remind yourself of your ultimate goal: fostering a relationship built on mutual respect and understanding. This approach also allows you to address your children from a place of clarity rather than reaction. When anger dictates our words, we often say things we don't mean, words that cut deep and leave lasting scars. By choosing calmness, you ensure that your words come from love, not frustration. For example, instead of snapping, "You're so disrespectful," you might say, "When you speak to me that way, it makes me feel unimportant. I'd like us to work on communicating better." This kind of statement invites dialogue rather than conflict, showing your children that you value the relationship enough to handle even difficult moments with care. The beauty of emotional control is its ripple effect. Over time, as you consistently approach disrespect with calm strength, your children begin to adjust their own behavior. They see that shouting or being dismissive doesn't provoke you into the same chaos. It leads to a steady, thoughtful response. This realization can be a turning point, encouraging them to adopt a similar approach, not only with you, but in their own lives. Emotional control doesn't mean you're unshaken by your children's actions. It means you're choosing how to respond. It's about showing them that strength isn't in yelling louder, but in rising above the chaos with dignity. Over time, your composure becomes a silent lesson, teaching them how to navigate conflict with grace and emotional intelligence. In moments of tension, it's easy to feel powerless. But by mastering your emotions, you reclaim that power in the most profound way. You set the tone for the relationship, showing your children that respect is not something demanded through force, but earned through consistency and calm leadership. This is the heart of emotional control, a practice that transforms not just your relationship with your children, but the way they view the world and themselves. When your children disrespect or ignore you, it's easy to interpret their behavior as a personal affront. It feels like a betrayal, especially after years of nurturing them, guiding them, and sacrificing so much to give them a better life. But often, their actions aren't just about you. Beneath the surface, there's usually a tangle of emotions, stress, insecurity, or even confusion, that they don't yet know how to process or express. Understanding this doesn't excuse their behavior, but it does give you a lens through which to view it with empathy. Empathy is a quiet but powerful tool. It allows you to step into your child's emotional world without condoning their disrespectful actions. When you choose to listen and understand rather than react and retaliate, you're building a bridge instead of a wall. But this doesn't mean abandoning your role as a parent or letting them walk all over you. Empathy and authority are not opposites. They are partners. Imagine Mary, a grandmother, raising her teenage grandson, Daniel. Lately, Daniel had been acting out, talking back, slamming doors, and refusing to participate in family dinners. Mary felt hurt and exhausted. One evening, after yet another argument, she decided to approach things differently. Instead of scolding him, she asked, "Daniel, I see you're upset, and I want to understand. Can we talk about what's going on?" At first, Daniel resisted, brushing her off with a dismissive shrug. But Mary persisted, not with anger, but with calm sincerity. Eventually, Daniel opened up about the pressure he felt at school and the tension in his friendships. For the first time in weeks, they had a real conversation, one where both felt heard. Empathy doesn't mean letting poor behavior slide. In Mary's case, she still reminded Daniel that slamming doors was not acceptable and that respect was a two-way street. But by addressing his underlying emotions first, she diffused the immediate conflict and opened a path for deeper connection. Her grandson saw her not just as an authority figure, but as someone who genuinely cared about his struggles. This balance of understanding and firmness became the foundation for a more respectful relationship. When you approach your children with empathy, you teach them a critical life skill: how to manage their emotions constructively. Children often act out because they feel unseen or unheard. By taking the time to understand their perspective, you show them that their feelings matter, even if their actions are unacceptable. This doesn't just improve your relationship with them, it equips them to navigate the world with greater emotional intelligence. However, showing empathy without losing authority requires a delicate balance. It's important to acknowledge their feelings while also holding firm boundaries. For example, if your child lashes out at you after a difficult day, you might say, "I understand you're upset, but we don't speak to each other that way in this house." This approach validates their emotions while reinforcing the standards of respect you expect. Empathy also encourages your children to take accountability for their actions. When they feel understood, they're more likely to lower their defenses and engage in honest conversations. They might even start to reflect on their behavior and its impact on you. This kind of self-awareness is a key step toward lasting change. Another powerful aspect of empathy is that it fosters mutual trust. When your children see that you're willing to hear them out, even in difficult moments, they'll feel safer coming to you with their struggles. Over time, this trust strengthens your bond and reduces the likelihood of future conflicts. They'll begin to see you not as someone who imposes rules, but as a partner in their growth and well-being. It's worth noting that empathy requires patience, something that can feel in short supply when you're hurt or frustrated. But the time and energy you invest in understanding your children's emotions will pay off in ways you might not immediately see. Even if they don't express it, your empathy leaves an impression. It teaches them that respect isn't demanded through force, but cultivated through connection. In moments of disrespect, it's natural to want to assert your authority right away. But pausing to understand your child's perspective doesn't diminish your role as a parent. On the contrary, it strengthens it. You show them that while you won't tolerate poor behavior, you are committed to guiding them through life's challenges with care and compassion. Empathy isn't a sign of weakness, it's a profound expression of strength. It says, "I see your struggle, but I won't let it define how we treat each other." When paired with firm boundaries, empathy becomes a tool for transformation. It turns moments of conflict into opportunities for growth, teaching your children how to navigate their emotions and build healthier, more respectful relationships. Over time, this approach not only heals the rifts in your relationship, but also helps them develop into empathetic, responsible adults who carry these lessons into their own lives. Respect isn't something that can be demanded. It's something that grows naturally when a strong emotional bond exists. As parents and grandparents, we sometimes overlook the importance of simply being present in our children's lives, not just physically, but emotionally. Building this connection becomes even more crucial as they grow older and more independent. If you feel disrespected or ignored, it might be time to reflect on the quality of the time you spend with them. When children feel seen, valued, and prioritized, respect often follows as a natural consequence. Think of the times when your child or grandchild seemed to drift away, consumed by their own world, leaving you feeling like an outsider. This is a common experience for many parents as their children grow up and navigate the complexities of their own lives. But what if the key to rebuilding that bond wasn't in correcting their behavior, but in re-establishing a sense of connection? By creating meaningful shared moments, you can bridge the emotional distance and lay the groundwork for mutual respect. Consider Eleanor, a retired teacher who often felt invisible in her own home. Her adult daughter Susan seemed too busy to engage in real conversations, and their relationship had become strained. One day, Eleanor decided to approach the situation differently. Instead of lamenting Susan's lack of attention, she invited her to cook a family recipe together, something they hadn't done since Susan was a teenager. During that shared activity, their laughter came easily, and Susan began to open up about the stress she'd been carrying. That simple act of spending time together, free of judgment or conflict, rekindled the closeness they had both been missing. Moments like these might seem small, but their impact is profound. When children of any age feel that their parent or grandparent values them beyond disciplinary roles or expectations, they start to see that relationship as a source of comfort and trust. The more positive experiences you share, the more likely they are to associate you with warmth and security. This emotional foundation makes it easier for them to respect and value your place in their lives. The essence of building strong connections lies in creating opportunities for meaningful interaction. These moments don't have to be grand or orchestrated. They can be as simple as sitting together for a meal, sharing a hobby, or taking a walk. What matters most is your full presence. In our fast-paced, distracted world, the act of giving someone your undivided attention is rare and powerful. When your children feel that you're genuinely listening and engaged, it deepens their sense of belonging and strengthens the bond you share. Another aspect of connection is consistency. Showing up regularly, whether it's a weekly phone call, a shared activity, or simply being available when they need you, reinforces your role as a steady, loving presence in their lives. This consistency builds trust over time, demonstrating that your relationship is a priority, not just an obligation. However, building connections also requires patience. Children, especially those who have grown distant, may not respond immediately to your efforts. It's important to approach these moments with an open heart and without the expectation of immediate results. Trust and respect take time to rebuild, but every effort you make plants a seed. Over weeks, months, or even years, those seeds can grow into a relationship marked by mutual respect and understanding. Importantly, building strong connections also means being willing to meet your children where they are. This might mean adapting to their interests, even if they don't align with your own. If your grandson loves a certain sport, ask him to teach you the rules or watch a game together. If your daughter has a passion for a particular type of music, listen to it with her and ask her what she loves about it. These small acts of engagement show that you're invested in their world, which can open the door for them to invest in yours. The beauty of strengthening your connection with your children or grandchildren is that it not only enriches your relationship, but also sets the tone for how they interact with others. When they see you prioritize connection and treat them with kindness and attentiveness, they're more likely to mirror those behaviors in their own lives. Over time, this creates a ripple effect, where the respect you model becomes a value they carry forward. Building connections isn't about fixing what's broken. It's about nurturing what still exists and allowing it to flourish. Even if the relationship feels strained or distant now, small, consistent efforts can create a profound shift. By showing up, staying present, and engaging meaningfully, you demonstrate the love and respect you wish to receive. And in doing so, you lay the foundation for a stronger, more harmonious relationship that stands the test of time. Respect begins with clarity. If your children ignore or dismiss you, it may be a sign that boundaries within the relationship have become blurred or inconsistent over time. Boundaries aren't about control. They're about creating a framework for mutual respect and understanding. When set with love and maintained consistently, boundaries act as a guiding compass, reminding your children of the value of respect, not because it is demanded, but because it fosters harmony and trust. Boundaries are not rules shouted in the heat of frustration or expectations left unspoken. They are clear, calm, and communicated with intention. Imagine a line drawn in the sand, not to divide, but to create a space where both you and your children can interact safely and respectfully. When boundaries are firm yet loving, they help prevent conflicts from escalating while also teaching your children valuable lessons about accountability and respect. For instance, think about Margaret, a widow who struggled with her adult son James, consistently arriving late to their weekly lunches. Each time, Margaret felt overlooked, as if her time didn't matter. Initially, she didn't say anything, hoping he would change on his own. But after months of disappointment, she realized that by staying silent, she was allowing the disrespect to continue. The next time they met, she gently said, "James, these lunches are important to me. When you're late, it makes me feel like they're not important to you. Can we agree on a time and stick to it?" Her calm but assertive approach surprised him, and from then on, James made a greater effort to be punctual. Margaret's boundary wasn't about imposing her will, it was about communicating her feelings and setting a standard for their interactions. This kind of boundary not only addressed the issue, but also strengthened their relationship by fostering mutual understanding. The key to effective boundaries lies in consistency. If a boundary shifts based on mood or circumstance, it loses its meaning. For example, if you allow your children to dismiss your opinions one day but expect respect the next, they'll struggle to understand where the line truly lies. Consistency provides clarity, which makes it easier for your children to respect and follow the expectations you've set. However, consistency doesn't mean rigidity. Healthy boundaries are flexible enough to adapt to changing circumstances without compromising core principles. For instance, if your daughter occasionally forgets to call, it may not warrant a strict response. But if the pattern becomes persistent, addressing it calmly but firmly is essential. Balancing firmness with compassion shows that while you value respect, you also understand the realities of life. It's also important to recognize that setting boundaries is not about avoiding conflict altogether. In fact, boundaries may initially create tension, especially if your children aren't used to them. They might push back or test the limits, challenging your resolve. But these moments are opportunities to reaffirm the boundary with love and patience. The more you maintain your stance calmly and consistently, the more your children will understand and adapt. Consider boundaries as a way of guiding, not controlling. They give your children a clear understanding of what behaviors are acceptable while also modeling how to set healthy limits in their own lives. By watching you enforce boundaries with kindness and respect, they learn how to do the same in their relationships, workplaces, and other social settings. Setting boundaries also requires you to communicate the reasoning behind them. When children understand why a boundary exists, they're more likely to respect it. For example, instead of saying, "You can't talk to me like that," you might explain, "When you speak to me that way, it hurts our relationship, and I want us to have a positive connection. Let's work on speaking to each other with respect. This approach turns a rule into a shared goal, making your child more inclined to honor it. Lastly, boundaries are most effective when coupled with actions. If a boundary is crossed, it's important to follow through on any consequences you've set, calmly and consistently. For example, if your child frequently interrupts you during important conversations, calmly enforce the consequence of pausing the discussion until they're ready to listen respectfully. The goal isn't punishment, but teaching accountability in a way that reinforces the value of mutual respect. By setting boundaries with love and consistency, you create a space where both you and your children feel valued and understood. These boundaries don't just protect your peace, they nurture the relationship by providing structure and clarity. Over time, your children will come to appreciate the boundaries you've set, recognizing them as acts of love and care rather than control. And as they internalize these lessons, they'll carry them into their own lives, fostering healthier relationships and deeper respect for others. Children, no matter their age, learn more from what they see than what they're told. Your actions, even in seemingly small moments, serve as a living example of how to handle challenges, manage emotions, and treat others with respect. If you're wondering why your children sometimes act dismissively or ignore your efforts, it's worth reflecting on the example you're setting. Are your behaviors aligned with the values you want them to emulate? Leading by example doesn't mean being perfect, it means being intentional. Mistakes will happen. After all, you're human. But how you handle those mistakes can leave a lasting impression. When you model humility, accountability, and resilience, you teach your children that strength isn't about always being right. It's about growing and learning. Take the story of Harold, a retired engineer whose adult daughter, Lisa, often criticized his old-school way of thinking during family discussions. Harold could have met her comments with defensiveness or dismissed her entirely, but he chose a different path. One evening, after an argument, he approached Lisa and said, "I've been thinking about what you said earlier. Maybe I do hold on to my ideas too tightly. Can you help me understand your perspective better?" This act of vulnerability and willingness to learn shifted the dynamic between them. Lisa, seeing her father's openness, began to approach him with greater respect, mirroring the understanding he had shown her. This kind of leadership, humble, intentional, and rooted in self-awareness, is what leaves a lasting mark. When your children see you admitting mistakes and working to improve, they're encouraged to do the same. It sends a powerful message. Growth is a lifelong process, and respect is built through actions, not demands. Another vital aspect of leading by example is how you manage your emotions. If you consistently respond to challenges with anger or frustration, your children are likely to adopt similar patterns. But if you demonstrate calmness and composure, even in the face of disrespect, you teach them the value of emotional control. This doesn't mean suppressing your feelings. It means channeling them constructively. For example, instead of raising your voice during a disagreement, you might say, "I need a moment to gather my thoughts. Let's continue this conversation when I'm calmer." This approach models self-regulation and respect for the other person's perspective. Consistency is also key when leading by example. If your actions don't align with your words, your children will notice. For instance, if you tell them to treat others with kindness but frequently criticize people around them, they're likely to adopt the behavior they observe rather than the one you advise. Living out the principles you want to instill, kindness, patience, respect, creates a blueprint for your children to follow. At the heart of leading by example is the idea of authenticity. Your children don't need you to be a flawless role model. They need you to be a real one. When you make a mistake, acknowledge it. When you feel overwhelmed, share how you're working through it. These moments of honesty show your children that it's okay to be imperfect, as long as you're striving to improve. Your daily interactions also matter. Simple acts of kindness, like thanking them for their help or expressing appreciation for their presence, can go a long way in fostering respect. When your children see you treating them with consideration, they're more likely to reflect that behavior back to you. This reciprocal respect builds a relationship based on mutual care rather than obligation. Leading by example also extends beyond how you treat your children. It's about how you interact with the world around you. If they see you speaking politely to a waiter, offering help to a neighbor, or handling a stressful situation with grace, they internalize these behaviors as part of their own character. Over time, these lessons accumulate, shaping how they approach relationships and challenges in their own lives. The power of leading by example lies in its quiet, consistent influence. It's not about grand gestures or perfect parenting. It's about showing your children what respect, patience, and accountability look like in everyday life. As they witness these qualities in you, they'll be inspired to incorporate them into their own actions, creating a ripple effect that strengthens not only your relationship, but also their connections with others. Ultimately, the example you set isn't just for your children, it's a legacy. Every act of patience, every moment of humility, and every effort to grow becomes a piece of the foundation they carry forward. It's a testament to the values you've lived by, leaving a lasting impact that extends far beyond your lifetime. By leading with intention and authenticity, you create a relationship where respect isn't taught. It's earned and shared, naturally and enduringly. Change doesn't happen overnight, especially when it comes to deep-seated habits like disrespect or dismissiveness. As parents or grandparents, it's natural to want immediate results when you set boundaries, practice empathy, or model respect. But relationships are not quick fixes, they're journeys. Cultivating mutual respect and understanding with your children requires patience and an openness to let growth unfold at its own pace. One of the most important lessons in this process is learning to give your children the time and space to reflect. When you've addressed an issue, calmly, thoughtfully, and with love, resist the urge to revisit it immediately or force a resolution. Reflection is a powerful tool, but it requires silence and distance to take root. Just as seeds need time to grow after planting, your words and actions need time to influence your child's thoughts and behaviors. Imagine a scenario where your adult son, David, lashes out during a family disagreement. You remain calm, explain your feelings without accusing him, and set a boundary about respectful communication. At first, David seems unmoved, brushing off your efforts with irritation. It might feel discouraging, as though nothing has changed. But days later, you notice a shift. He calls to apologize, admitting he's thought about what you said. That moment of reflection, spurred by your patience, becomes a turning point in your relationship. This kind of delayed growth is common in family dynamics, especially when emotions run high. Children, even adult ones, often need time to process their feelings, understand the impact of their actions, and decide how to move forward. By giving them that space, you're respecting their autonomy and empowering them to take ownership of their behavior. Patience is especially crucial when addressing patterns of disrespect that have developed over years or even decades. It's important to remember that these patterns didn't emerge overnight, and they won't disappear overnight either. Each effort you make, whether it's setting a boundary, showing empathy, or leading by example, is a step toward breaking the cycle. Even if the changes seem small or imperceptible at first, they're part of a larger transformation that requires consistency and time. Allowing space for reflection doesn't mean ignoring bad behavior or avoiding difficult conversations. It means addressing issues thoughtfully and then stepping back to let your child absorb the lesson. For example, if your daughter consistently forgets to return your calls, you might calmly explain how that makes you feel and express your hope for better communication. Afterward, resist the temptation to remind her every day or express disappointment if she doesn't change immediately. Instead, trust that your words will resonate in time, especially if paired with your consistent example of respectful communication. Giving space also fosters a sense of dignity for your children. When you allow them to reflect and decide how to respond, you're showing that you believe in their capacity to grow and make better choices. This respect for their process can be a powerful motivator for change, encouraging them to rise to the expectations you've set. It's also important to recognize that patience doesn't mean passivity. While waiting for reflection to take root, continue to nurture the relationship with small acts of kindness and presence. These gestures reinforce the foundation of love and trust that makes change possible. For example, sending a thoughtful message, inviting them to spend time together, or simply showing interest in their lives communicates that your relationship matters, even in challenging times. Reflection works both ways. While your children process their own behaviors, take the opportunity to reflect on yours. Ask yourself what's working, where you might improve, and how your actions align with the values you want to uphold. This self-awareness not only strengthens your efforts, but also models the kind of introspection you hope to inspire in your children. Over time, the combination of patience, space, and reflection creates a ripple effect. As your children grow in their understanding and begin to change their behavior, the dynamic of your relationship shifts. Moments of conflict become less frequent, replaced by a growing sense of respect and cooperation. The progress may be slow, but it will be steady and meaningful. Patience is a gift you give not only to your children, but to yourself. By releasing the need for immediate results, you free yourself from frustration and disappointment, creating room for hope and resilience. This approach allows you to focus on the bigger picture, the enduring relationship you're building, rather than getting caught up in temporary setbacks. In the end, giving space for growth is an act of faith in the power of change. It's a way of saying, I believe in you, and I trust that you're capable of becoming the best version of yourself. This trust, coupled with consistent love and guidance, becomes the fertile ground where respect, understanding, and harmony can flourish. Over time, you'll see the fruits of your patience in a relationship that feels stronger, healthier, and more fulfilling than ever before. Building respect and repairing relationships with your children isn't just about addressing major conflicts. It's also about recognizing and celebrating the small, everyday improvements. When progress feels slow, these small wins serve as stepping stones, gradually paving the way for bigger changes. Encouragement, no matter how subtle, can be a powerful motivator that fosters growth and strengthens your bond. Think about a moment when your child makes even the smallest effort to improve their behavior. Perhaps they thank you after a meal, show up on time for a visit, or use a gentler tone during a conversation. It might not seem monumental, but these little acts carry weight. By acknowledging and appreciating these moments, you reinforce the behavior you want to see more of. Encouragement isn't about excessive praise or making a big deal out of small gestures. It's about showing genuine appreciation in a way that feels meaningful. Take Louise, for example, a retired nurse whose relationship with her adult daughter, Clara, had become strained over the years. Clara often forgot to call on Louise's birthday or check in during the holidays, leaving Louise feeling hurt and overlooked. One year, Clara made a small but meaningful effort, sending a text message to wish her mother a happy birthday. Instead of focusing on the fact that it wasn't a phone call, Louise responded warmly, saying, "It means so much to hear from you today. Thank you for remembering." That simple acknowledgement encouraged Clara to keep reaching out, and over time their communication became more frequent and heartfelt. Encouraging small wins doesn't mean lowering your expectations or ignoring larger issues. It's about shifting your focus to the progress being made, no matter how incremental it may seem. These small steps are the foundation of lasting change, and by highlighting them, you show your children that their efforts are noticed and valued. Positive reinforcement works particularly well because it taps into a fundamental human need, the desire to be appreciated. When your children feel seen and acknowledged for their efforts, they're more likely to continue improving. This doesn't mean overlooking bad behavior or avoiding difficult conversations. It means balancing accountability with encouragement, creating an environment where growth feels achievable. Encouragement can take many forms. A simple thank you or "I noticed you've been making an effort" can go a long way in fostering respect and connection. You might also express your appreciation through actions, like returning their kindness with a thoughtful gesture of your own. For instance, if your child surprises you by showing up for a family event they previously avoided, you could respond by preparing their favorite meal or taking time to have a meaningful conversation with them. These reciprocal acts of care strengthen the emotional bond and build mutual respect. It's also important to recognize that small wins often reflect larger underlying changes. A seemingly minor shift in behavior, like a softer tone during a disagreement or a willingness to listen without interrupting, might indicate that your child is beginning to internalize the lessons you've been teaching. By celebrating these moments, you're reinforcing the values that drive those changes, encouraging them to take root and grow. Encouragement is particularly powerful when paired with patience. Change, especially in deeply rooted family dynamics, takes time. There will be setbacks along the way, times when old habits resurface or progress seems to stall. In these moments, it's crucial to focus on the progress that has been made rather than dwelling on what hasn't. This perspective helps you maintain hope and resilience even when the path forward feels uncertain. For some parents, it may feel unnatural or even uncomfortable to offer encouragement when the relationship has been fraught with tension. But taking that step can break the cycle of negativity and create a new dynamic based on positivity and mutual appreciation. It's not about ignoring past conflicts, but about creating a future where those conflicts are less frequent and less damaging. Encouraging small wins also sends an important message to your children. That change doesn't have to be perfect to be meaningful. When they see that their efforts, no matter how modest, are valued, they're more likely to keep trying. Over time, these small changes can accumulate, leading to a profound transformation in the way you relate to each other. In the end, celebrating small wins isn't just about fostering respect, it's about nurturing hope. It's a reminder that every step forward, no matter how small, brings you closer to the relationship you want to build. By focusing on progress rather than perfection, you create an environment where growth feels possible and relationships can flourish. Over time, these small wins add up, creating a foundation of trust, respect, and love that strengthens your family for years to come. Every step you take toward fostering respect and rebuilding your relationship with your children is an investment in the long-term health of your family. It's not an easy journey, but the rewards are profound. By practicing emotional control, showing empathy, setting loving boundaries, leading by example, and celebrating small wins, you are laying the foundation for a relationship built on mutual respect and understanding. Remember, change doesn't happen overnight, and setbacks are part of the process. But with patience, consistency, and love, you can create an environment where respect grows naturally. The bond you share with your children is not defined by isolated moments of conflict, but by the enduring effort you put into nurturing that connection. As you implement these approaches, trust the process. The transformations you seek may take time, but each moment of calm, every empathetic conversation, and each small win contributes to the relationship you're building. Over time, you'll see how these efforts create not just peace, but a lasting harmony that strengthens your family. If this video has inspired you or given you new insights, we'd love to hear about it. Share in the comments below one thing you've learned or plan to apply to your family dynamics. Your experiences might inspire others on similar journeys. Don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who might find it helpful, and subscribe to our channel for more guidance on creating stronger, healthier relationships. Together, we can build the loving, respectful families we all deserve. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to hearing from you.